You asked for it, and Gary and Susan Snow of Table Tree provided. Without further ado, Cherry Chocolate Mead.
Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Derica, and today we're doing the most requested, and this all started with Justin A. Hollifield, Cherry Chocolate Mead. Now, we are ridiculously excited about this mead, and if we start getting overly animated and babbly, one, we're both over-caffeinated, and two...
I'm not.
This is our 1-year anniversary. So yay!
Tomorrow will be, when you watch the video, it'll be the next day.
Yep.
But it's close enough. 364 days is close enough. And to do this one, we actually decided to do something really special. Gary and Susan Snow, who are longtime viewers and members of our Facebook group, sent us some juice to try out.
But this isn't just some juice.
This is the world's best cherry juice.
They actually won Best Pure Juice at the World Juice Awards in Barcelona, Spain, which is a really big deal in the juice world. And
they're in the United States.
We all
in
know
Montana.
when you're making anything for food, if you have the best ingredients, then you're going to have the best end product. This goes with any type of food: baking, cooking, canning, brewing.
Right.
So to have an award-winning juice as our base for this is really, really cool. And this is our first official collaboration. So that's super cool too, because we really wanted to build a community, and we're starting to see that happen, and so it gets us excited.
So I'm going to interrupt you, and I'm going to talk now.
That's fine.
Gary and Susan sent me the juice, and I tried it, and then they said, hey, can we do a spot? So we decided, yes, we're going to work with them. Right after that, this little Jim from Treasure State Honey said, hey, Gary and Susan said you're doing a mead. Would you like me to send you some honey? I was like, yes, please. Thank you, coach. Sign me up. You know? So he sent us some honey to do the mead with. So a little story about his honey. This is also the world's best honey.
Yeah, they won World's Best Honey Award at the World Honey Conference in Istanbul, Turkey in 2017.
Yeah. So no pressure. We're just using the world's best cherry juice with the world's best honey, and it's our 1-year show. So yeah. So I might be a little nervous today. You know, the hands are a little shaky. I'm just kidding.
We're going to talk more about the benefits of cherry juice.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
They
to
sent
go
us
over.
a lot of stuff about this, and I think it's really awesome. But I want to get into the mead so that you guys don't yell at me for not getting to the point.
So stay tuned, because there's going to be more about Table Tree. But right now we're going to talk about this particular mead.
Okay, so for this mead, what I'm aiming for is like a 14-15% alcohol, and I want it to be a little bit on the sweet side. So I am using Lalvin D47 yeast.
Now, this is kind of interesting because we have another City Steader, Dino, who just recently did a brew with D47, and he was having problems with it activating. So we're going to be using it, and we'll be able to time when it starts activating, maybe be able to help Dino out.
Now, because this is a mead, and honey really requires a good head start, and because it's going to like 15%, it's on the upper end of normal-ish medium. So these packets are good for 5 gallons. Today it's going to be good for 1 gallon, because we're making 1 gallon, because I always do 1 gallon batches just to try things out. I've never made this before. Obviously, I had never used this juice before, or this honey before. So I'm going to use half the packet, and I just have some plain water here to hydrate my yeast. So I'm going to use half the packet, and it's, you know, rough idea. And you can hold it up so they can see. I think they know how to pour yeast.
We're using what Brian likes to call the self-stirring cup. This is just a name that we created. This is actually a replacement cup for the Magic Bullet mixer, blender, whatever it is.
It's a little teeny tiny
You can
blender.
find these in the link in the description below or in our Amazon store.
And this is why I call it the self-stirring cup.
It's got ridges inside that you may be able to see. So when we swirl it, it mixes everything up.
It sometimes does a really good job. Now I'm hydrating the yeast. This isn't a starter or anything like that. This is just getting it moistened up, loosened up, activating it a little bit, getting it a little bit more alive. We want to make sure that it's actually going to work, and it acclimates the yeast a little bit to their environment.
This water is room temperature. It's important that you pay attention to the temperature of whatever you're putting your yeast in, because if it's too hot, they're going to get all crazy and active.
You don't want
and if it's
crazy
too
yeast.
Cold, they're just going to be real tired and sluggish and probably not do anything. So keep that in mind.
Okay, so let's get to it. First,
of course, all these things have been sanitized in our red bucket of sanitization. Brian hates it when I do that, but it's a requirement. It's a rule.
it's a moral imperative.
So we're trying to arrange it so you can actually see what we're doing.
Okay.
Over right here.
So what I'm going to do is get my scale up.
Yep.
I'm going to wait for it to start up. Then I'm going to put my jar. Now I'm using a wide mouth 1 gallon fermenter. We're going to be putting a plastic cap with a grommet on it, and I'm going to use an airlock, obviously. And that's all been sanitized. Everything is clean. Everything is good to go. And I'm going to zero this out. Now it's on grams. I'm very sorry, but I have to do this one on pounds because I go by pounds of honey. Gives me 0.035 gravity. I'm going to put that formula right here. So, here's how you do this. It's simple math. Before anybody gets angry or that they have to have a degree or something to figure out how to make this, it's very simple. If I want, say, a 15% brew, right? Because I know 14% is my alcohol tolerance on the yeast, which is the theoretical maximum it'll go to, which yeast don't know that rule.
Remember, yeasts are live organisms.
So it might go to 13, it might go to 15. Let's plan on 15, just in case. I can always sweeten it up a little bit more later if I need to, but let's get it to 15. So if I'm looking for 15%, right? 15% divided by 131.25 gives me 0.114. So I'm looking for a 1.114 starting gravity. It's just that simple, people. 0.114 divided by 0.035 gives me 3.26. 3¼ pounds of honey. Simple. Now, I will give you what that is in grams once I get to the weight measurement on it. Next comes the super messy part, and I actually put a metal spoon in the tub of sanitation. Because this tub, as pretty as it is and as great as it was for transportation, is not the most efficient way to get honey into there. So I'm going to use a spoon. There's going to be a lot of cursing, and probably for many colorful words and language things will come out of my mouth.
So therefore, through the magic of Brian's editing skills,
you probably won't see anything.
Okay, so we had a little bit of a snafu because we hadn't opened our vat of honey, and when we did, we saw solid mass of white, which, because we haven't used this before, we thought maybe it had a wax coating or something. No, what had actually occurred is that the honey crystallized into a solid block. So if you are dealing with crystallized honey, and I know a lot of people, particularly in Europe, that's the only way they can get it, what you do is you put your honey in a container, or you can use the container it came in, and you want to put that in warm water. You don't want water getting into your honey, you just want to soak the vessel in warm water. Now ideally, you don't want to go above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 35 degrees Celsius, because that is the temperature that the hive likes to stay at. So that way you know all the goodness that is in the honey naturally won't get cooked out. If you go beyond that, you can cook away some of the natural good elements that are in honey. And because this is award-winning super duper honey, we didn't want to cook it out. Now, as you can tell, it is thick. It is liquidous.
So stirring is going to be
a challenge, and we're hoping this works. because we really wanted to, but this has kind of thrown us for a loop.
I love the way they seal their bottles. It's like wine.
Yes, it's
Okay,
very
I'm
elegant.
going to open some of these and pour them in. There's some stuff that we wanted to talk about this juice, though, so I'm going to entertain you by trying to open bottles while Derica reads to you.
All right, so Gary and Susan gave us this lovely sheet that we've scribbled and highlighted and put notes on. And so we're going to put this entire thing of information in the description below so you can read
Along with
all
links
about
to
their
their website,
history
stuff like
and
that.
stuff, because there's some really cool stuff in here about like the lake that they're near and the cherries that they grow and all that. But what we actually want to talk about is the benefits of this cherry juice. I've actually had a conversation in our Facebook group with Nurse Joan of Arc. Now, I'm guessing her name isn't Joan of Arc, but she's a cool person and she is a nurse. And
Joan of Arc Destroyer.
yeah.
Hey,
Yay! Being a nurse, she's on her feet a lot and doesn't get to hydrate properly, which Brian and I, as wedding photographers, when we're doing a wedding, we have the same problem. We're running, we're climbing, we're walking, we're standing. We never get to sit or hold relaxed positions.
even when we're eating.
Yeah, we're just breathing our food in so we can
A lot of
get
time
right
we're
back to
standing.
work. Yeah. So
No, we don't need to sit. It's only been 12 hours.
So getting to sit, getting just a glass of water is a luxury that we often don't get to have. So when we're done with the day, just like Nurse Joan of Arc, when she's done with her day, everything hurts. So,
It's when I have bourbon.
cherry juice, and this is what prompted our discussion online, is a natural source of melatonin. Now, if you're not familiar with melatonin, it helps regulate the wake and sleep cycle. Brian suffers from insomnia, and so he actually
time.
takes melatonin pills to help regulate that. It's something that's naturally occurring, particularly in the young, but it seems like the older you get, the more your body just kind of goes, nah, I'm not going to make that for you anymore. Right?
You trying to say I'm old?
I'm not saying anything of the sort. So, cherry juice, particularly tart cherry juice, has a really good source of melatonin. So that can help you, if you take a drink of it before you go to bed, to help regulate your waking and sleeping cycle so you can rest easily. But on top of that, it helps with reducing joint and muscle discomfort because it is high in, what is that word?
Anthocyanins.
Yeah, those. And bioflavonoids. So this is going to naturally help your body
Smells awesome, by the way.
to deal with those issues and get you a good night's sleep.
As you can tell, they package this for medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
More so than to brew with it. However, I know they did, so that's where we got the idea. Also, Gary wrote me after watching the spaghetti video where we talked about the arthritis in my hands, and he said an ounce a day will actually help reduce the symptoms. I might have to try that. We're also curious if those same properties come through when it's alcoholic. I'm going to be the test subject, just so we'll find out.
So now that we've incorporated the cherry juice in with our super thick honey, it's working. It's
Gonna
loosened up.
It's going to take some mixing. And I think at this point, we can probably cut to off camera. We'll see when this is all in and mixed through. I got to about this point and realized something. When I was calculating the gravity and what I needed, I had not taken into account the juice itself. At this point, you might be wondering, did he do that on purpose just so that he can show us another technique? I would really like for you to think that, though it's not entirely accurate. So, what we're going to do is I poured some juice into the test tube, and I'm going to find out what the actual gravity of the juice is, because I think this stuff has a pretty high gravity all on its own. It's a little higher than a normal juice. It's at 1060. So that actually would have significantly changed our gravity here, and probably would have put it like off the charts, which means stalled fermentation, probably not going to work. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to show you how to save it instead of just going, oh, well, it's just not going to work, or throwing it away, which I'm not throwing this away. This is probably some of the most expensive honey I've ever used. I don't really know. And I know the juice is relatively expensive compared to, say, you know, Welch's. So
we have sanitized
a second fermentation vessel. And what we're going to do is transfer the must from this one to this one, filling them equal in dignity. Then we're going to put in the rest of the juices, and we're going to fill the rest with water as necessary to dilute it until we get down to just the right kind of gravity. However,
you don't need to watch that.
You don't need to watch us try pouring this.
So we'll be right back.
Just getting it started. So, my secret plan to save a couple of these bottles for myself has been foiled. What we have done though, split it into 2 jars, and I'm going to dump the rest in. I'm not going to be super accurate about it. I know there's about half of that one in there and half of that one in there. But now I can play with that headroom a little bit that I was concerned with. And hey, you know what? I'm going to end up with more than a gallon now. Always carry a Swiss Army knife. I learned this when I was like 8.
Unless you go to the zoo.
Yeah, they make you leave it in your car. And don't carry them on airplanes either. They tend to frown on them. I've literally carried a Swiss Army knife since I was 8 years old. I'm not going to tell you how many years that is.
Are you going to put that one into?
Yes.
Then dump all of that one in.
That's what I'm going to do.
Excellent.
But I had a partial open one, and that made 3, and it was an uneven number, so I had to...
It's okay. We're good.
Yeah, I was thinking, sort of. So I know that adding that extra juice probably took the gravity down a bit, but probably not enough. I still think this is like super, super high gravity. Probably in the like 180 range. It's not what I want at all. So, add some water, right? Why not? And what I'm going to do is probably just measure up to about, here or so. We'll get some extra headroom. We are still going to pitch yeast into this. I'm just going to go to about there on both of them. I'm going to take measurements on both because they're going to be a little bit different just because, they're getting slightly separate treatments here. I just want to get a reading to get a rough idea. But I'll take initial gravity on both of them when we're actually ready to do that. So let me just get the baster here. Gotta get those last drops. It's important. This is, crazy stuff there. That's at about 1.132, 1.134. So a little bit more water, and I think we're there. That's what I was hoping to see. And I'm not that worried. I mean, if I go a little bit below my target, it's okay. I can always sweeten it up a little bit later. I'm pretty sure I know where to get more of that juice. So before we take any more measurements, I'm just going to add some more water in. I'm estimating. I don't really know exactly how much water I'm adding here. What I'm also going to do though is we got our yeast. It's all cloudy and stirred up. I'm going to put half of it in this one, half of it in this one. Remember, I used half a packet, so there's enough yeast in here for 2.5 gallons. Yep. It's almost like I thought ahead.
If he would have thought ahead and seen what was going to be...
I wouldn't have gotten out of bed today.
He would have just stayed in bed, yeah.
Yep. I would have decided today's a good day to go for a drive far, far, far away.
Want to mix?
Oh yeah, I should mix it. Now I'm mixing and I'm breaking that. I'm trying to get some air into it as well because this is still going to be a pretty strong must. So I want to make sure that it gets every advantage possible to turn into mead. However, I do think that based on the flavors going in this is going to be amazing. There's also one other thing going in it, but in secondary, that I didn't even mention yet. Dun dun dun! So now I want to take another reading. We have everything in there except the cacao nibs. Now I just want to get a rough idea, again, where it's at. I know, lots of readings today, but you know what? this is one of those things, like, I want this to be sort of precise, even though it's been nothing but imprecise the whole way. So now I can kind of get it back in line, okay? I can control it again. And that's the secret to this, is it went all wonky on me, but because I have a hydrometer, and because I thought about it and went, oh, we put all this juice in on top of that honey. But if I didn't have a hydrometer, I would have no idea where this was. No idea. So, it's important. You want to not have it overflow when you put it in. Oh, and look at that. 1.114. Exactly what I wanted. All right, so perfect. We are on for our target right now, which is perfect. And I took it out of this one, right?
Yep.
I'm going to assume that one's really, really close to that. So for now, I'm not even going to bother taking another reading. Just I'll spare you the agony of watching me do that again. For now, though, what I want to do is get our cacao nibs. And I'm going to do a dual arrangement of cacao nibs. What I mean is I'm going to put some in now, and I'm going to put some in secondary. But I actually need a measuring container. All right, I got a bowl. I got a scale. Zeroing out my scale. I'm going to take some cacao nibs. Now, what cacao nibs are is they're actually the husks of the chocolate bean after the beans have been extracted. They don't look like much. They look like just dried up leaves and twigs and stuff. But they do have a lovely chocolate flavor and smell.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been trying to use chocolate in mead, and they're using like chocolate powder and Hershey's cocoa. This is the way to go, guys. I put this in a braggot once, and it was amazing. So this is what you want to use. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to just put in 1 ounce in primary, because I've heard, and I know, if you put too much in for too long, man, it will take over. I have a feeling that honey and those cherries are a ton of flavor on their own, so I don't think it's going to be too much. That's why I'm only doing 1 ounce. This way I can gauge it. There we go, perfect, 1 ounce. I can gauge it for when I go into secondary. Does it need more? So I can adjust. I was initially going to put 2 ounces in.
So how much isn't?
I need 1 ounce for each.
Yeah, but how much? An ounce is how many grams?
I'm so glad you asked. 28 grams. All right, so I'm going to drop 1 ounce into this guy. See, at this point, I could do this one differently.
But we're not gonna.
But I'm not gonna. All right, I won't. I'll do them the same. Gonna need more cacao nibs. Now these are gonna float and sort of hydrate and fall to the bottom eventually. Just mix them through real good.
But because they are an actual part of a plant originally, they are chock full of nitrogen, and they will help feed those yeasts and make them happy.
They're yeast food.
See how we didn't use that other word? We used yeast food instead.
No N word on this channel. Okay. All that's left now is final gravity readings, or final starting gravity readings for both of these. We need caps, we need airlocks. Be right back. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take those readings that are our official starting gravity readings for both of these. And yeah, you see what I just did? I squirted air into it. And you know what? That's okay. You want some air in your must when you're first starting it up, because it lets the yeast get going. It lets them build up a good strong colony. Yeah, this is looking nice. I'm actually really happy with the way this came out. It's going to be interesting because we did dilute the cherry juice, but it's concentrated cherry juice. So, might not have been a bad thing to do, but it's also going to give a lot to everything to mix through it. It was a lot easier to mix up. All right, so my final gravity here is, shocker, 1.114.
They're a song about tiny bubbles.
Yes, we marched to it in the army.
Really?
Mm-hmm. None of us were old enough to drink, but you know, it's all about beer and wine. Okay, this one came out a little bit lower. It's actually more like 1.1 104 or so. I'm okay with that. So one of them will be a little bit sweeter, one will be a little bit drier. And we'll find out how they do. No worries there. Like I said, if this comes out dry, we're going to try it. We're going to see how it tastes. And maybe we'll add something to it. Maybe we'll back sweeten it.
So the second one
Not
was...
really sure. 1.104 and 1.114. All right, so we did our gravity readings. We have our labels, our fancy labels. Masking tape makes the best labels ever. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put lids with a grommet with an airlock. The airlock is filled up to that little line, and it's sanitizer water in here. If I didn't have sanitizer water handy, I would be using vodka. People have been asking, can I just put water in it? While you can, it doesn't mean you should. The idea behind an airlock is it's supposed to force the gases force their way out. They go up, they go down, they go out through the water, and nothing can come back in. It's a one-way valve, essentially. It's like a trap in your sink. Really
so as water would prevent stuff from getting back in, using a high-proof alcohol or a sanitized liquid doubles your protections.
Well, water will stop the bugs, like the actual physical bugs, like fruit flies. But it won't stop bacteria, molds, yeast, things like that, because water is a carrier for a lot of that stuff. So you got to be careful. Always use a sanitizer liquid or just a little bit of vodka. It's not much. You're not wasting much, but don't use the good stuff. What do I do with these now? They sit under my desk. How long? Probably 2 to 4 weeks. Why? I don't believe in racking early. I like to let stuff sit and wait until they're actually done. We want to make sure that every last bit gets taken out of this. We want to make sure that the yeast have done their job. What I'll do is I'll wait 3, maybe 4 weeks, then I'll take a reading. Then I'll wait another week, take another reading. If those 2 readings haven't changed, you're going to see another video.
Yes. When we get to that point, there will be another video, and there will be something special added to these brews. So stay tuned for your next episode of City Steading.
No, I'm not even sure what she's talking about. Oh, wait. Oh, no.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so thanks for watching. If you like this video, give us a like. If you really like what we're doing, give us a subscribe. And don't forget to hit that little bell icon so you get notified of everything we do. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.